Hi everyone, this is Helloangel.design. Today I'm going to show you how to make A-line dress with Peter Pan collar. You can see that this collar has a piping. You don't have to, the piping is optional. You can just make your collar without no piping. I have shown on this video how you can use your A-line dress neckline to make your collar. The fabric is different, as you can see right there. And this dress is a button down center back. I have started to stitch my button. This is how the inside look. Is really cute. Please watch the tutorial till the end so that you don't miss anything out. If my tutorial has been helpful, thumbs up. If you're just stopping by, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you exit the video. And make a comment down below if you have any questions. The dress is for 3 to 4 years old child. And let's get started. First thing that you have to do, you take your front and back A-line dress. You're going to put the both shoulder seam together. So this is my front A-line dress and this is my back A-line dress. We are going to put the both shoulder seam together. So what you're going to do, from the armhole side, I will take a measurement of 1 centimeter. So you just take your measuring tape from the armhole side, from this pattern paper. You measure down 1 centimeter inside. Once you have done that, then you take your back pattern paper, put them together like this, because I want the neck of the, when I'm going to trace out the neck, I want it to be curved. So you just put them together. You push your back pattern paper like this, so that this edge of your neckline and this edge of your armhole meet each other. So what you're going to do, you take your sellotape or whatever you're using, and then you take your scissors. You're going to tape that. Now that we have put the neckline together, tape it together, the next thing that we have to do is to trace around the front and back neckline. Before you do that, for the back dress, if you have seam allowance, so what you're going to do, make sure you fold that seam allowance inside, because you don't want to trace your seam allowance. Once you have done that, put them together, just go ahead and trace around the neckline. I have traced my neckline all around. You can see that there's a little bit gap here, so I'm just going to curve it. Go ahead and curve it properly so that it curves properly. For that, I will be using my armhole curve to curve it all around. So I have curved it all around. I will just clean this out. So this is how it will look. The next thing that you have to do is to measure all around. So what you're going to do, you want to measure, depends on you, how wide you want your Peter Pan collar to look. If you want 5 centimeter, 6 centimeter, 7 centimeter, but for me, I'm going to measure all around 7 centimeter, include the seam allowance, both the bottom and the top when I'm putting the dress together. So I'm just going to measure 7 centimeter all around. I have measured my 7 centimeter. You can see all my dash mark right there. The next thing that you have to do, you take your armhole curve, just go ahead and curve it all around. So I have used my armhole curve to curve it out like this. The next thing that you have to do, you take your armhole curve. This is a smaller armhole curve that I have. From the front right here, you don't want it to be sharp. In the back, you don't want it to be sharp also. You take your armhole curve. If you have a smaller one, just the way I have right now, you're just going to curve it a little bit. You just curve it around from this point, you just curve it around like this. That is for the back. For the front, you're going to do the same thing. Place your armhole curve. You're just going to curve it out. So what you're going to do, take your scissors, go ahead and cut it out. I have pinned my collar on the fabric, so go ahead and do the same. Once you cut it out, pin it on your fabric, go ahead and cut it out. You don't need any seam allowance because seam allowance is already included on this Peter Pan collar that we make. Once you have done that, go ahead and place your pattern paper on your fabric. If you're going to cut the back, cut 2 pieces. If you're cutting the front, put the front on fold and just cut 1 piece. Don't forget to add your seam allowance if you don't add seam allowance on your pattern paper. So go ahead and cut it out, and then we start to put the dress together. I have cut out my fabric. You can see I cut out my collar. So I cut 4 pieces. 1 on this side, 1 on the other side. So when you're cutting your collar, remember to mark the front and the back. So you can see my marker right here. I just mark F. This is the front side so that I know that this is the back side. And I cut a piece of fabric. The width is 2.5 centimeter. I'm going to use it to make piping for the collar front. So I'm going to first top stitch with my zipper fold, and then place it on my collar and stitch it all together. And this is my made fabric. I'm using lightweight denim fabric, and this is my lining. My lining is a little bit shorter than my made fabric. I just measure inside 1 inch from the bottom edge of my lining because I don't want to make this dress and the lining is sticking out a little bit. So I want the lining to be shorter than my made fabric. So if you're making a dress, you have to make sure that your lining is a little bit shorter than your made fabric. Instead, they are both the same length. So this is how I cut my fabric. Let's start put the dress together. First thing that we have to do, we are going to stitch our piping. You take your 2.5 centimeter fabric, you take your piping, place it like this in between the fabric. So fold it into 2. Like this. We are going to stitch it all around. Make sure you're using your zipper foot. So for me, I'm going to be using this zipper foot so that it's closer to the rope inside, and then I will top stitch it all the way down. Once I am done with that, then I will come back and place it on my collar and top stitch all over again. So go ahead and stitch that in place. I have stitched my piping. This is how it is. The next thing that you have to do, you're going to pin it around the collar. So what you're going to do, put them together like this. Just go ahead and pin it all together. I will leave it. I will make sure I push my piping inside a little bit, and my fabric will be showing because from here to here is not up to 1 centimeter. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter, so I want to have the same seam allowance all around. So when you get to the curved edge like this, you're going to take your scissors, just go ahead and snip it a little bit so that when you place it on your fabric, that curved edge lies very flat on your fabric. So just go ahead and pin it all around. Once you have done pinning, top stitch it first before placing the lining on top of it and top stitch all over. So go ahead and pin it in place and then take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. I have stitched it together. I just turn it inside. I'll give it a good press. Once you have done stitching, don't forget snip around the curved edge so that when you press your collar, it lies properly. So this is how it is. The next thing that you have to do, you take your front dress. This is the front of my dress, and then you take the back. You're going to put the both front fabric together, pin the both shoulder seam together. Once you have done pinning the both shoulder seam, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter, and then you take your lining, you do the same thing, put the both front fabric together, pin the both shoulder seam, take it to your sewing machine, stitch the both shoulder seam. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. So go ahead and top stitch. I have stitched the both shoulder seam together. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to attach our collar on the dress that we are making. I'm going to place it like this around the collar, and I will do the same thing on this other side. I'm going to place it around the collar. Remember your 1 inch seam allowance for your button or your zipper. So I will just take my pin around the collar, around the neckline. So go ahead and start pinning. I have pinned my collar all around. This is how it is. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all around. I have top stitched it all around. You can see that my stitches is not up to 1 centimeter. When I put my lining on top of it, then I will top stitch around. It will be 1 centimeter. So the next thing that you have to do, you take your lining, you're going to put your lining on top of, so you're just going to pin them together like this. You're going to pin around the neckline, and you also go ahead and pin around the armhole. I have stitched around the neckline and the both armhole. The next thing that you have to do is to turn it inside out. Before you do that, take your scissors, snip around the neckline and also around the armhole. So just put your hand inside your dress and pull it out. I have ironed my dress. This is how it looks right now. It's really cute. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to stitch the both side seam. Turn your fabric like this. Your front fabric are facing each other. Just like this, front fabric facing each other. You're going to pin the both side seam together. I have pinned the both side seam of the dress together. Take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all the way down. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. You come down to this other side, you do the same thing. Once you have done stitching, also go ahead and use zigzag to overlock the raw edges, or take it to your saw jaw, overlock the raw edges. So go ahead and top stitch. I have stitched the both side seam. This is how it finally looks. And I take it to my overlocker. I just overlock the raw edges. This is how it looks. And I pushed the lining seam towards this side, the main fabric seam towards this side, and I pin the armhole. So I will take it to my sewing machine, give it a top stitch up to 1 centimeter just to secure that. And I will do the same thing on this side. Once you have done that, then take your dress to your sewing machine. We are going to hem the lining first before stitching the center back. So go ahead and top stitch. I have hemmed my dress. This is how it finally looks. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to stitch the center back, where we are going to attach our zipper or buttonhole. But for me, I'm stitching a buttonhole, so that is what I'm going to show you how to do. So what you're going to do, take your dress to your ironing board, fold inside 1 centimeter. You can also see that I overlock the raw edges. Once you fold inside 1 centimeter, then you pick your lining like this. You see the way you pick your lining, and these raw edges you need to cover the main fabric. You just fold it over the main fabric like this and pin that in place. So what you're going to do, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all the way down, and you will do the same thing with the second side. So go ahead and top stitch. I have top stitch. This is how it is. What you're going to do, just turn it inside, and I take it to my ironing board and I just fold inside 1 centimeter. So what you're going to do, put them together like this. You're going to pin them in place. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine, stitch it all the way down, and you come down to this other side. You do the same thing, stitch it all the way down. Once you have done that, also go ahead and hem your dress. Just fold inside 1 centimeter and then fold it again 1 centimeter and top stitch. So go ahead and stitch that in place.